They say the worst kind of betrayal isn't when someone stabs you in the back. It's when the person who swore loyalty, the person who held your hand and looked you in the eye, is the one holding the knife. And the cut isn't just in your heart, it's in your trust, your dignity, your sense of safety. But here's the truth. Cheaters rarely confess out of guilt. They confess when they're caught, which means if you want the truth, you can't sit around hoping it will land in your lap. You have to be smart. You have to be tactical. You have to shift from being an emotional victim to a strategic investigator. Think about it. Liars don't just lie with words. They lie with silence. They lie with changes in behavior. They lie with sudden distance, unexplained excuses, secretive phones, or stories that don't match. They leave a trail. Always. But most people are too blinded by pain to see it. That stops today, because you are not here to cry in the dark, wondering. You are here to learn how to see what's really in front of you, to calm the panic, gather the facts, and protect your power. Not all predators live in the shadows. Some live in your own home. And if betrayal is happening, it's your job not just to find out, but to handle it with strategy, dignity, and strength. Suspicion is like smoke. It doesn't always mean there's a fire, but it demands attention. The mistake most people make is either dismissing that smoke as just my imagination or fanning it into a raging fire of paranoia before they have a single fact. Both extremes are dangerous. If you want to know the truth, you must treat suspicion for what it really is, a signal. Not proof, not evidence, but a call to investigate with strategy instead of panic. When suspicion first hits, it feels like a punch to the gut. Your mind starts spinning with questions. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? Am I crazy? Am I blind? That spiral is where most people lose their power. They become consumed by emotion, and emotion blinds you. You might cry, lash out, accuse without proof, or worse, you start searching through phones, emails, and personal things without a plan. In that state, even if your partner is innocent, you're setting yourself up to look unstable. If they are guilty, you're showing them your hand before you even have cards to play. Step 1, calm yourself. When you feel that gut suspicion, pause, breathe. Tell yourself, I will not let emotion control my next move. I will think like an investigator, not a victim. Why? Because victims react, investigators observe. Victims let their fear take the wheel. Investigators let discipline guide them to facts. Understand this. Your intuition is often more accurate than you realize. The subconscious mind picks up micro changes in body language, tone of voice, patterns of behavior. You might not be able to explain why something feels off, but you feel it anyway. That's not weakness. That's a gift. But here's the catch. Intuition without evidence is not enough. You need to validate your instincts with observable, repeatable facts. That's how you turn suspicion into clarity. Think of it like intelligence gathering. If you were working undercover, you wouldn't run into the room and blow your cover the second you felt something was wrong. You'd watch, you'd listen, you'd collect information quietly until you could confirm the truth. Your relationship, when under suspicion, requires the same mindset. Let's get tactical. When you feel suspicion rising, don't make accusations, don't demand answers in the heat of emotion. Instead, shift into silent observation mode. Begin watching for consistencies and inconsistencies. Is there a change in their daily rhythm? Are they less emotionally available? Do their stories line up from one day to the next? Write it down, take notes, even if it feels small. The human mind loves to rationalize, oh, maybe I'm just overthinking, maybe I misheard. But when you see the same inconsistencies show up again and again on paper, you can no longer gaslight yourself into ignoring reality. The key here is discipline. Discipline to not let your suspicion turn into stalking. Discipline to not confront with shaky, emotion-fueled accusations. Discipline to simply say, I will observe, I will gather, I will wait until I have enough to move with certainty. Here's what you have to remember. Cheaters are often skilled liars. If you accuse them prematurely without evidence, they'll twist it on you. They'll call you paranoid, insecure, or controlling. They'll make you doubt yourself. And suddenly you're the one apologizing for questioning them. That's why suspicion alone is not enough. That's why you must keep calm until you have more. Suspicion is not your enemy. In fact, it's your ally. It's the warning system built into your intuition telling you that something doesn't line up. But you must use it properly. If you ignore it, you risk living in denial. If you abuse it, you risk becoming irrational. But if you control it, you gain power. You move from fear to focus, from reaction to strategy. Imagine this. Instead of lying awake at night, heart racing, wondering if they're betraying you, you start writing down behaviors, times, dates. Instead of scrolling through their phone in desperation, you step back and quietly pay attention to patterns. You stop giving away your anxiety and start giving yourself data. That shift alone is life-changing. Suspicion, handled with discipline, becomes clarity. And clarity is freedom. It frees you from the chaos of what if and gives you the power of this is. Whether the truth reveals betrayal or innocence, at least you'll know. And knowing is always better than living in the fog of doubt. So when that first spark of suspicion strikes, don't panic, don't accuse, don't spiral. Anchor yourself. Say to yourself, this is not the end of me. This is the beginning of my strategy. Because the person who controls their suspicion controls the truth. And the person who controls the truth controls the outcome. If suspicion is the spark, behavior is the smoke that either confirms it or clears it. Human beings are creatures of habit. We operate in patterns. When those patterns shift without explanation, it's rarely by accident. The smartest way to catch betrayal is not by chasing shadows in secret accounts, but by watching the patterns that happen right in front of you. People can lie with words, but their behavior always tells the story. Let's start with routines. If someone's routine suddenly changes, you need to pay attention. Were they always home by 7, but now it's late meetings 2 or 3 nights a week? Do they suddenly have new hobbies or activities that strangely don't include you? A change in schedule doesn't automatically mean cheating, but when it becomes a pattern and the explanations are vague, dismissive, or defensive, you have a red flag. Behavior that breaks from their natural rhythm is a signal worth noting. Then there's the phone, the modern vault of secrets. Look for small but consistent shifts. If their phone was always face up and now it's flipped face down. If they used to leave it on the counter and now it's glued to their hand like a lifeline. If they suddenly take calls in another room or become visibly nervous when a notification pops up. One moment doesn't prove anything, but repeat patterns reveal intent. A partner who suddenly guards their phone like it contains nuclear codes is communicating something even if they never say a word. Pay attention to stories. Cheaters often create small inconsistencies without realizing it. They'll say they were at one place but later reference another detail that doesn't fit. They'll tell you they were with friends but can't easily name who. Or maybe their story is overly rehearsed, too neat, delivered like a script rather than a natural response. The truth flows freely. Lies require constant patchwork, and the more patchwork you see, the more likely there's a hole in the foundation. Now let's talk about emotional distance. One of the most powerful indicators of betrayal isn't anger or avoidance, it's the slow withdrawal of intimacy. You feel them pulling away, not physically at first, but emotionally. They're less present in conversations, they give shorter answers. Their patience runs thin with small things that never bothered them before. And when you ask if something's wrong, their reaction isn't concern, it's defensiveness. Defensiveness is the shield of guilt. A loyal partner who loves you wants to reassure. A guilty partner wants to deflect. Notice their body language. People don't realize how much they communicate without words. When you ask about their day, do they avoid eye contact or fidget more than usual? Do they overcompensate with exaggerated stories to distract you? Do they go cold or irritated when you ask simple, non-threatening questions? Behavior reveals more than words, because words can be manipulated. Behavior is instinctive. Here's another subtle but powerful signal. Sudden changes in attention toward you. Cheaters often swing between two extremes. Some grow cold, distant, less affectionate, because their emotional and physical energy is invested elsewhere. Others overcompensate with unusual affection, gifts, or praise because guilt drives them to cover their tracks. The shift is what matters. If their behavior toward you suddenly flips in a way that feels unnatural, it's a clue. And then there's the classic sign, defensiveness. When you ask a simple question like, "Hey, where were you tonight?" and instead of giving a clear answer, they snap. "Why are you always questioning me?" That's not normal. That's not love. That's self-protection. People who are innocent tend to explain. People who are guilty tend to attack. The angrier they get at basic questions, the more likely they're hiding something worth protecting. Here's the truth. One red flag doesn't prove anything, but repeated red flags build a case. It's not about catching one suspicious look or one late night. It's about recognizing patterns. Cheating is rarely one big mistake. It's a series of small choices that stack into undeniable change, and your power comes from seeing the pattern clearly instead of gaslighting yourself into ignoring it. Think of yourself as a detective at a crime scene. You're not here to scream guilty the moment you see a footprint. You're here to notice all the footprints, the fingerprints, the small signs that point to one undeniable conclusion. That's how you win. Not by chasing shadows, but by calmly reading what their behavior is already telling you. So instead of crying into your pillow wondering if your gut is lying, pay attention. Observe, record, let the behavior speak. Because when someone is lying, their behavior will always betray them before their words ever do. In today's world, betrayal doesn't just live in whispered phone calls or late nights at the office. It lives in the digital space, in the palm of their hand, on screens that never leave their side. But here's the line you must draw. You do not hack, you do not break into accounts, you do not become a criminal to catch a cheater. That strips you of dignity and in some cases your freedom. What you can do is observe what's already in plain sight. Digital behavior leaves a trail, and if you know where to look, you'll see it without crossing the line. Let's start with social media. It's a window into how people present themselves to the world. Watch for sudden changes. Did they suddenly clean up their profile? Deleting old couple photos with you, untagging pictures, or turning their relationship status to private? Did new friends appear that you've never met? People who suddenly dominate their likes and comments? A shift in online presence is often an external reflection of an internal decision. They might not say they're detaching from you, but digital breadcrumbs reveal it. Pay attention to activity patterns. If they're up late at night, but their last seen timestamp or activity shows them online at odd hours, that's not random. If they've never cared about likes or comments before, but now they're glued to who reacts to their posts, that shift is intentional. People don't just become obsessed with online validation overnight. Often they're feeding attention to or seeking attention from someone new. Group chats and messaging apps also hold clues, but again, you don't invade privacy. What you watch for are patterns of secrecy. Do they suddenly clear conversations that used to stay in their thread lists? Do you see message previews stop appearing on their screen, as if notifications are deliberately hidden? Do they tilt the phone away the second a message comes through? Secrecy isn't in the app. Secrecy is in the behavior surrounding the app. Shared accounts or subscriptions are another overlooked arena. You don't need to snoop, you just need to notice. Streaming services, ride shares, food delivery apps. Check the activity that's naturally visible. Do you see orders or rides you didn't take? Movies or shows watched that don't match their habits? New account subscriptions with no explanation? These aren't smoking guns, but they are signals. Cheating often requires logistics, and logistics leave receipts. Even email and shared digital spaces can raise quiet alarms. Have you noticed unusual receipts for flowers, hotels, or dinners that you weren't part of? Are there subscriptions or purchases linked to cards you share that don't add up? Remember, you're not breaking into anything. You're reading what's already legitimately in front of you, the paper trail that life naturally leaves. Another sign? A sudden overprotection of devices. Did they change their passwords overnight, lock you out of accounts you previously shared, or add fingerprint/face ID where there was none before? Protecting privacy is normal, but rapidly increasing secrecy without cause signals a wall being built, a digital fortress around behavior they don't want you to see. Let me be clear, technology doesn't cheat, people do. The device is only the tool. The key is not in obsessing over every ping, buzz, or notification. The key is in reading the shifts. A partner who used to leave their laptop open, but now slams it shut when you walk in. A partner who used to casually hand you their phone to show a photo, but now suddenly acts like the device is glued to their palm. These changes are not about technology, they're about intent. Here's where your discipline matters most. You don't storm into their messages. You don't hack accounts or go digging through data that isn't yours. Why? Because the second you cross into invasion, you lose the moral high ground. And when the confrontation comes, they will flip it on you. You violated my privacy. You don't trust me. You're the one out of control. Don't give them that weapon. Stay within ethical lines. Because the truth will surface even without you crossing them. Instead, be the silent observer. Note what you can see without crossing boundaries. Save what comes through naturally, legitimate screenshots, receipts, bank statements, subscription logs. Observe shifts in what's already visible. Let their secrecy betray them, not your overreach. Digital footprints are everywhere, but you must read them wisely. Don't mistake every new friend for an affair. Don't assume every late-night message is betrayal. What matters is not the isolated event, but the consistent pattern. A sudden new online connection paired with secretive phone habits, paired with late-night work, paired with emotional distance. Now you have a web of evidence, not a paranoid thought. And your power is in patience. Your leverage is in restraint. You are not chasing shadows on screens. You are calmly piecing together the trail of behavior that tells you whether your suspicion is smoke or fire. Technology may be the battlefield, but the war is still won with discipline, observation, and control. Here's where most people lose the fight. They find one suspicious clue, and instead of building a case, they explode. They scream, cry, demand answers, or throw accusations with nothing solid to back them up. That's exactly how you lose your power. Because when you confront with emotion instead of evidence, you give the other person an escape route. They'll dismiss you as paranoid, flip the blame back on you, and suddenly you're defending yourself instead of uncovering the truth. That is not strategy, that is self-destruction. If you want clarity, you must gather facts with discipline. Think of yourself as documenting a case file. When a detective walks into a crime scene, they don't scream, "I know who did this." They carefully photograph, collect, and catalog every piece of evidence. You must treat your suspicion the same way, calm, methodical, and intentional. Start with a journal or secure notes. Every time something feels off, write it down, the date, the time, the event, and what didn't add up. Don't rely on memory. Memory lies when emotions are high. One inconsistency might feel small, but when you line up 10, a pattern becomes undeniable. Suddenly, you're not chasing shadows. You're looking at a documented sequence of behavior that cannot be argued away. If you come across receipts, invoices, or bank charges that don't add up, log them. Not obsessively, not like a stalker, but calmly, like someone who's simply recording facts. If you're legitimately sent a screenshot, if you see a message on a shared account, if you receive a notification that belongs to both of you, keep it. Don't go digging into things that cross ethical or legal lines, but don't discard legitimate data either. Your strength is in what you can prove without compromise. And here's the discipline that separates the powerful from the powerless: emotional restraint. You will feel the urge to confront them the moment you see something suspicious. But if you react too soon, you tip them off. The second they know you're onto them, they adjust, they hide better, they erase evidence. That's why you stay calm. Your silence is leverage. Every day you resist exploding, you gain more control, because you're letting them reveal more of themselves while you quietly document. This isn't just about collecting information, it's about protecting your identity. When you lose yourself in panic, you lose sight of who you are, you start questioning your worth, your sanity, your strength. Gathering facts in a disciplined way reminds you that you are not powerless. You're not a victim waiting to be fed lies. You're the one building the truth, brick by brick, calmly, with clarity. That mindset alone keeps you grounded when the storm is raging. Think of leverage. If you walk into a confrontation with nothing but emotion, you're begging for validation. But if you walk in with facts, dates, times, evidence you legitimately saw, you hold the power. You can calmly present what you know, and there's no twisting it into insecurity. That's why restraint matters. That's why silence is strategic. This also gives you something most people never have in betrayal: options. If you document patterns and calmly gather facts, you get to choose how and when to move. You're not forced into a corner by panic. You're not scrambling to prove you're not crazy. You're in control of the timing, the environment, and the strategy. That choice is everything. Let me be clear. Gathering fact doesn't mean you obsess every second of the day. It doesn't mean you let your entire life revolve around suspicion. It means you move with intention. You keep your dignity intact while quietly building clarity. You still live your life, you still take care of yourself, you still protect your energy. Why? Because you don't just want answers. You want answers without losing who you are in the process. The truth is, when you operate this way, you gain something bigger than evidence. You gain peace of mind. Because no matter what you discover, you'll know you didn't destroy yourself trying to find it. You'll know you approached it with discipline, integrity, and strength. And when the time comes to confront, you'll be ready. Not with shaky accusations, but with undeniable clarity. Gathering facts without losing yourself isn't just about finding out if they're cheating. It's about protecting your mind, your dignity, and your future. And when you do it right, you'll be in the strongest position possible for the next step: the confrontation. You've gathered the facts, you've observed patterns, you've written things down, you've stayed calm. Now comes the part most people fear the most: confrontation. This is where emotions can either make you or break you. If you handle this moment like a victim, you'll walk away with confusion, manipulation, and even more doubt. If you handle it like a strategist, you'll walk away with clarity, dignity, and control. The first rule of confrontation is timing. Never confront in the heat of emotion. Don't do it when you're exhausted, don't do it after you've had an argument, and don't do it when you're alone in your room at midnight pacing with adrenaline. Timing is tactical. You choose a moment where you are calm, centered, and in control of yourself. That way, you cannot be dismissed as emotional or irrational. The second rule is environment. The space matters. Confront in a neutral place where you can stay composed and, if needed, walk away without escalation. Avoid high-drama settings. Do not stage it in front of friends, family, or children. This is about you reclaiming clarity, not creating a spectacle. If you fear volatility, choose a public but calm environment where safety is assured. Control the stage and you control the tone. Now, let's talk about how you speak. Most people make the mistake of leading with accusations. You're lying. I know you're cheating. This gives the other person immediate room to deny, attack, or flip the blame back on you. Instead, lead with facts. Stick to what you've observed and what you can verify. For example, on this date, you told me you were at work, but I saw charges from a restaurant across town. Or, I noticed you've started hiding your phone when messages come in, and I'd like to understand why. Facts force the other person to respond to reality instead of escaping into denial. Keep your tone controlled, not aggressive. You are not begging for honesty, and you're not trying to intimidate. You are asserting your right to clarity. The power is in your composure. When you present facts calmly, you are harder to manipulate. The person in front of you will either reveal the truth through their words or expose their guilt through their reactions. Either way, you win because you've set the stage for truth to surface. Set boundaries before you step into the conversation. Decide what you will and won't accept. For example, if they admit to betrayal, what is your next move? If they deny but you have strong evidence, will you continue to gather facts or end the relationship? If they explode, insult, or gaslight, how will you disengage? Having boundaries beforehand prevents you from being caught off guard or dragged into emotional chaos. One of the strongest tactics you can use in confrontation is silence. Most people are terrified of silence, so they fill it with lies, excuses, or backpedaling. Present a fact, then stay quiet. Let the weight of your words sit in the air. Silence forces them to respond. And their response, whether defensive, evasive, or guilty, tells you exactly what you need to know. Have an exit strategy. Confrontation isn't about arguing for hours until someone breaks. It's about presenting facts, observing responses, and then making a decision about your next move. If they get aggressive, you walk away. If they gaslight you, you don't stay to negotiate with denial. If they admit the truth, you listen, but you don't let emotion pull you into bargaining your dignity away. The exit strategy keeps you from getting trapped in a cycle of manipulation. And here's the most important part. Keep the focus on clarity, not revenge. You are not here to scream, insult, or humiliate. That lowers you to their level and strips you of power. You're here to reclaim the truth so you can make the best decision for yourself moving forward. When you confront with dignity, you protect your integrity, no matter how ugly their betrayal may be. Remember, confrontation is not about controlling their reaction. It's about controlling yours. You cannot force them to tell the truth, but you can present the facts, hold your ground, and make decisions based on their response. That is power. That is strategy. So when the moment comes, don't explode. Don't beg. Don't crumble. Walk in steady, speak facts, stay calm, enforce boundaries, and walk out with your dignity intact. Because whether they confess, deny, or attempt to twist the truth, you will already know what to do next. When betrayal is confirmed, the hardest part is not knowing the truth, it's deciding what you'll do with it. This is where many people lose their power. They beg, they bargain, they stay in a situation that has already robbed them of dignity, hoping the cheater will magically transform into someone trustworthy again. But here's the truth. When someone shows you betrayal, you don't cling tighter, you step back, organize yourself, and walk away like you mean it. Walking away isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's declaring, I value myself too much to tolerate disrespect. The first step is practical. Get your finances in order. Know what belongs to you. Secure your accounts. Review your credit cards. Track your money. Betrayal often goes hand in hand with financial recklessness. Protect your resources because stability is power. The second step is emotional support. Betrayal isolates you, and cheaters count on that. They want you to doubt yourself, to feel like you're alone, to collapse inward so they can control the narrative. Don't give them that power. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your worth, who keep you focused, and who don't fuel drama but reinforce your strength. The third step is boundaries. Walking away doesn't always mean physical distance immediately. Sometimes logistics take time. But boundaries start now. No late-night negotiations, no endless second chances, no access to your body, your time, or your energy while they figure things out. When you cut off access, you cut off their power to keep stringing you along. And finally, carry yourself with dignity. Do not scream in the streets or wage a social media war. That only makes you look like the one who lost control. True power is in composure. Walking away with quiet confidence says more than any outburst ever could. It tells the world, and more importantly, it tells you, that your self-worth is not negotiable. Because at the end of the day, betrayal doesn't define you. Your response does, and the strongest response isn't begging someone to stay. It's showing them the door, and never letting them think you'll crawl back through it. Betrayal is brutal. It cuts deep, not just because someone broke their word, but because they made you question your worth. But listen carefully. Your worth was never theirs to give or take. It was always yours. You don't stay in pain to prove you're strong. You don't keep fighting for a seat at a table where you're disrespected. Strength is not holding on. Strength is letting go with your dignity intact. If someone cheats, lies, or betrays, they are telling you who they are. Believe them, and then show them who you are. You are not a victim to their deceit. You are not a prisoner of their lies. You are the one who chooses clarity over confusion, power over panic, dignity over desperation. So if the time comes to walk, walk with your head high, your back straight, and your future in your own hands. Don't look back to see if they're watching. Don't wait to see if they regret it. That's not your business anymore. Your business is you, your healing, your growth, your next chapter. Because the ultimate revenge against betrayal isn't rage, and it isn't revenge at all. It's peace. It's rising above the chaos and saying, I cannot be broken, I cannot be diminished, and I will not live small just because someone else lacked the courage to be loyal. You want power? Here it is. The power to see the truth, face it without fear, and walk away like you mean it. That is how you win.